Is it set up to restream?
Yes.
Okay.
And is the stream gonna break? Da-na-na! And we're dropping frames. Why are we dropping frames?
We're on a more powerful computer than we've ever run WordCast on, and we're dropping frames.
Run WordCast.
It's also not live.
I know.
Pretty sure.
It takes a minute here. Let's.
It's taking longer than normal.
Restream should be.
Oh, are we there? Yeah.
We're there, but we are dropping so many frames.
Yeah, we are. This is bad.
What is happening with everything?
All right, this is like the worst prepared WordCast ever.
Okay. I have no idea what's going on right now. Like, we are mad dropping frames, dude.
Yeah, we are. Open task
like,
manager?
That's live. No, it's set as high priority. It's not using that much power.
Okay.
Like, this is a 6700K. We shouldn't have issues with that. It's just OBS is saying no.
Could it possibly be that the USB cable you're using is shit?
That shouldn't cause drops, though.
Okay.
Because that would be drops from the capture card, not from OBS itself. Plus, it worked when we recorded.
Yeah.
So I have no idea why we're dropping frames. And it's uploading at, like, 2 megabits right now.
Joe, since you're watching, is the audio good and is it just the video that's bad? Or
Yeah, let us know. Is it just is the audio good? I want to make sure they can actually, know.
That's true, because if the audio is bad...
If the audio is bad, they can't tell us that the audio is bad. I don't know what's going on. My stream options are set up to be... I'm streaming at 7 megabits.
Mirko said audio's fine. He's also making a joke that he DDoSed you. Last week, though. All the packets I sent to him last WordCast are just now hitting
7,000 megabits.
So he's shitting on how bad your internet is, saying it's so slow you're just now getting the DDoS.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. I'm just using
audio is good, video is choppy AF. Okay.
I'm not getting any... It's really weird because I'm recording at a different quality than the stream, but that shouldn't affect any dropped frames, so that's not it. And restream...
Wouldn't be the problem
at all. So it is internet-based, apparently. And I'm connected to the 5 gigahertz router right there. Yeah, do a fast test. I'm glad audio is great, though. Thank you, Joe, for the help. Sorry, anybody that's watching that is so confused right now. We're trying to figure this out. We have spent a massive amount of time troubleshooting already because we thought my capture card was broken because we're using a new computer and it was displaying things weird, but it was displaying things weird from everything. So then we found out it was my camera that needed to be restarted. It was the only thing we hadn't done. We reinstalled drivers and everything like that, tested new cables. Camera was outputting, basically imagine us times 10,000 in a grid, and it was outputting that to the capture card for some reason. So we fixed that. Now we're just trying to figure out if the upload's causing the problem with the video being choppy. I can't imagine that that's it, but that's... I don't know what else it would be.
You're getting 9.
Yeah, and we're using some right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because we get 15 or so, and we should be using, in theory, about 7 right now.
Yeah.
So, I have literally no idea what's happening right now. So, I apologize to anybody that's looking forward to the video. There's not a lot we can do about that to make that better.
Which sucks because some of the topics are like best being shown.
Yeah, exactly.
Like especially the Spot Mini.
Right, Mirko, it's Threadripper because I have Threadripper in my laptop here.
Damn, dude, that's impressive.
I know,
you should make a video about that.
Dude, I thought about it, but I was like, nah, people probably do that all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. See, I don't even have Threadripper up and running because I had to buy a power supply.
Is this the computer you used to always have internet connectivity issues on?
That's been every computer.
True, but didn't you have one?
This one was just no. This one had Ethernet issues. Nothing with Wi-Fi ever had a problem. Ethernet would cause it would like disconnect and reconnect and do all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, I can always.
You should put up a like blank image then if we're just gonna be cutting in and out. I feel like
I should maybe do that.
We'll just turn it into an audio only podcast this week, I guess.
Yeah. Here, let me adjust that really quick.
Yep, that should be a new show. WordCast Troubleshooting Live.
WordCast troubleshoot. I like it.
You got disconnected from chat. Your computer's definitely having some kind of connectivity issue.
Okay. He loves this version of WordCast Troubleshooting Live.
Yeah, we should make that a new show.
I wouldn't mind, but the only problem is, how are we supposed to stream us trying to fix the stream?
It doesn't always have to be the stream. We can just do a live troubleshooting show. It's not like you don't always have things to troubleshoot.
Like just random troubleshooting, like anytime?
No, we can do it scheduled. You always have problems.
That's true. I always have problems. Okay, guys. Gonna stop it and restart it after trying to figure out what's going on with my Wi-Fi. Maybe, unless you guys just want to leave.
Live run a speed test.
Yeah.
See if your computer is getting something different than mine was.
Yep. Thank you, everybody that's still here waiting for us.
Copyright music.
Okay, so I'm getting plenty down. I'm getting the same down you were getting.
Man, this has been non-stop issues today.
It really has. We're almost an hour into issues. My upload's lower than yours, but not by much. Now it's the same. Because I'm using two, so it makes sense, yeah. So I don't know why in the world OBS is just like, nah, mate, we're going to drop all the frames today. CPU is not being used much. We have dropped 94% of our frames. Wow. Oh, this is not a good day. Woo. Let me see. Advanced encoder settings.
You should,
No. I should,
hang on.
This is ridiculous.
Could it be possible that because your laptop has NVIDIA and Intel, it's trying to run something off the Intel iGPU for displaying or something?
Even
this
so,
person's mentioning that.
Oh.
I'm looking at something about OBS dropped frames.
Let me launch
for no reason.
Afterburner.
Yeah.
And see if Afterburner is reporting any weird.
Because this guy had a laptop
stuff.
with a 1060.
Okay,
and
so
he was
my
having
GPU usage is at. Let me see. I don't think I have my integrated GPU displayed on here. Hold on, let me adjust that. We're trying to figure this out, guys. WordCast troubleshooting live. GPU, blah blah blah. I don't have another GPU listed. Oh no, that's this is a desktop 1070.
Okay,
so there's no switching. It always uses the desktop 1070.
Okay.
So, and we're using like 20% of the GPU power right now. And we're not using like a lot of memory or anything either. And it's running at a cool 40C, so it couldn't be temperature throttling or something like that. I'm using X264 software encoding at 7 megabit, 192 on the bitrate for the audio. The video is being, the output's downscaled to 720 30 FPS from the 1080 capture. Process priority's high. I can't figure this out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea why we're just...
I would say maybe just throw up an image and...
Yeah, I can add an image. Do you want to talk about the first subject while I add an image?
Sure.
Okay.
So the first topic of the week, starting almost an hour late now, is...
It's okay.
Yeah. Which is fine. A lot of these topics that we have this week are fairly small. So, Bill Gates Bill Gates and an organization that he owns or works with bought 250,000 acres of land to build a smart city. Now, this isn't the first smart city project we've seen companies working on. Google has an entire, or Alphabet, I should say, has an entire subsidiary meant for smart city development. Wow. That's bad.
That's apparently what I have right now.
Okay.
Here, hold on. No, I'm gonna scale it to the out. That's not working.
Okay, well, I'll get back to this.
That's not working.
Let me get back to this because you're bad at that. So 250,000 acres of land, which would go to building 80,000 homes and then a bunch of space for, industrial, retail, office, parks, open space, schools, all that. The city would be designed to have high-speed networks, a bunch of data centers. It would be designed more so around autonomous cars and vehicles rather than you driving across the city. So this is truly meant for a city for the next decade, not for the city of now.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting about the idea of this is no current city has been designed from the ground up with what we know now about city development, what we know now about traffic patterns, and just general urban planning. So,
dude, the YouTube one is far behind the Twitch one.
Wow. Wow.
Like, the YouTube one's even more broken than the Twitch one.
What is going on?
Here, I'm gonna move my hand here and see if the Twitch one's laggy too. Here.
It is.
It most likely is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the drink just...
The drink just, like...
It's slideshow mode. Oh, my God.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, it is.
And then just the sloppy image, but there's still a little bit of space there.
Oh my God, this is bad.
I'm sorry, people that are watching the stream. Live stuff is entertaining. Alright, so you keep talking about this. I'm gonna see if I can fiddle with some things more and
Literally
fix it.
just open that in Paint.
Yes.
You should add a text layer that says display, like, image issues or frame issues or something. Because, like, we just got someone asking why the WordCast logo is covering the video feed.
Yeah,
Just so that you know why it's doing that while Ethan adds this. Yeah. We're having, for some reason, massive frame drop problems. Ethan is running this on his far more powerful laptop. And we've had nonstop issues, and the current one is that without maxing out the CPU, he is somehow dropping like 94% of his frames.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing.
So it's literally slideshow mode, so instead we just decided to throw up a static image, and this week is going to be audio only. As of right now, it's like mostly audio only with a very poor overlay.
Yep.
Yeah. So typical WordCast stuff, just problems.
Right. Well, we don't usually have this many problems.
Yeah.
Though.
We've stepped up our game.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're trying to improve, guys.
We're trying to improve our garbage.
Yeah. So yeah, back to the city. It's really just gonna be like, think of like if we thought like, if you think like, why do we have all these problems with cities that like all this tech could solve that we have now? Well, that's the point of this. The tech we have now will solve these problems, presumably. So it's just meant to be a more so an experiment than anything else realistically. But it's a city that people are gonna live in, and it could be a push for what we see existing cities update their infrastructure too.
Yeah.
So who knows? Alphabet's Sidewalk Labs is the name of the company. Sidewalk Labs is Alphabet's subsidiary, and they're working on one in Toronto, whereas Bill Gates' city is something that would be in Arizona. So who knows? I'd like to visit it once it's up and running, if not live there, depending on how good it actually is. I don't know about living in Arizona, though. That sounds miserable.
Yeah, it's not fun.
However, a big part of the problem, especially in the bigger cities in Arizona, is the extra heat added by the asphalt.
Yeah.
I wonder, since they're building this from the ground up, if they might... We know that, for example... Oh my God. Okay. This is just getting worse and worse.
It's 1280 by 720. How?
Maybe it's because you're scaling?
But I don't have... I told it to scale to the
Just drag the image down and make it smaller. Make it fit manually.
I will. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, so there are ways to deal with
there's our glitchy selves in the background.
Yeah. There are ways to deal with the increase in temperature with newer technologies and newer design, like things, I mean, even things like just making asphalt white would make a big difference.
Yeah.
And even potentially, depending on how they go about it and what materials they use, we might be able to essentially reflect more heat than the ground normally would, therefore cooling it. Also, to answer Joe's question about what makes a smart city, it really depends. I mean, there's no set definition. In the case of Bill Gates' city, I mean, it's things like directly integrating... Oh my God.
It's just like...
Yeah. It's things like integrating data centers and networks into the core of building the city. So they might do things like designing, instead of having to dig up the ground every time you want to do new networking, it might be basic things like having networking run along the roads that's more easy to open up and lay new wire. But it would also be things like controlling utilities in a smarter way.
There's a lot of just interesting things. It's like energy. A high-tech city, really, is what it comes down to.
It's just like whatever tech you could put into improving a city, they would do from the ground up, while also using modern stuff that we know about, like urban planning and potentially.
Oh, and probably gigabit everywhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they mention high-speed networking as a feature, as a key feature. So really, we're not going to know the exact details until they start development. It's just interesting that they're wanting to do a true high-tech, I guess, city. And they're not the only one. We're looking at multiple companies now working on this type of thing. Sidewalk Labs has a more detailed definition of what they're working on. Now, they're working on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
For theirs, it would be 800 acres versus 25,000 acres, I should say. Not 250,000. But theirs is like smart street lights, so they might have sensors so that they aren't on if there's literally no one on the street.
Which is, all that's just really interesting.
Also, though, with Sidewalk Labs, public Wi-Fi, which causes huge security risks, so who knows how they'll handle that. Though that being said, Android phones, at least, I don't know if all Android phones have it, I think it might only be stock phones. There's a functionality where you can have the phone auto-connect to publicly available Wi-Fi.
Yeah, yes.
And it auto-connects to a VPN. So that solves some of the security issues. Not all of them, but it's a good step in the right direction. There's just a lot of moving parts. Yeah, Watch Dogs in real life. That's actually a good way to describe it.
Yeah, that is a good way to,
So, when everything gets hacked and everyone gets killed from it, that's exactly what we're describing.
When everybody gets killed from it.
So
you heard it first on WordCast.
Yep. Next up,
this is happening. This is how far behind YouTube is right now.
Jesus Christ.
But I don't even know if the audio is that far behind.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Next up is Face ID. I'll let you start this
one. So Face ID is having, as many people speculated could happen, it is having unlocking security issues, basically. So those of you that don't know, the new iPhone X, I'm sure everybody knows, is no fingerprint reader. It unlocks using your face. You look at it, and you can set it up so that it just works with your face, or that you have to actually look directly at it with your eyes open, which is a little more secure but takes a little longer. I've played around with it some. It does work pretty well, but there are some issues with it when it comes to security involving other people potentially unlocking your device with their face. So there's two main things to talk about here, and a third point that's related to the second one that's important. So the first one is there's a woman and her son who looks kind of like her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the names of the people off the top of my head, so I apologize. But her son, 10-year-old, was able to unlock her iPhone by looking at it. So what that tells me is, I'm sorry, but if somebody, that's like 40 and their 10-year-old can unlock their phone.
Do you know all the details about this, or is that the extent of what you've read about?
That's the extent of what I read. I
want to add some because there's a lot more to it. So for one, yes, they found that the kid was able to unlock the mom's phone first. That was the first thing they figured out.
Okay.
From there, they had been talking to, I think it was Wired. Was who the outlet that reached out to them.
Yeah, I read part of the Wired article, but not the whole thing.
And Wired had done some back and forth. So for one, they had them test the father's phone. It worked a couple times on the father's phone and then stopped working.
But that's still not good.
I know, but let me keep going further. So for one, a lot of people that look at the family, especially in real life, have said to this family apparently that the kid looks a lot more like the father than the mother. So that's a little weird. But Wired had the mother test clearing the Face ID and redoing it. She did this at the second time in optimal lighting, and the kid's face did not work at all.
Okay.
And then they had her clear it and do it again indoors in less natural, just less good, like poor lighting conditions like she did it the first time. It did not work the first two times. It worked the third.
Okay.
And then it did not work 2 more times after that. It worked the 6th. And then from then on, it worked every time because for those
it
that
adapts. Yeah, correct.
Face
Yeah,
ID
yeah.
learns based off of you. So like if it notices like 98%
So
of your
assuming you
face-
don't have somebody trying to get into it with their face repeatedly when you first add your face, in theory it's going to be accurate enough.
Yes.
You probably won't have
Yeah.
issues.
because essentially like if it detects like 98% of your face, it'll scan the other 2 and add that. Or I don't know what the threshold number is, but essentially anything past the threshold for unlock, it tries to scan anything else.
And it focuses on your mouth, your nose, and your eyes,
Yes.
by the way. Cheeks and stuff don't make much of a difference.
Yeah.
So that is also something that can add into it. But the more important section to...
I want to keep going on this
go
part
ahead,
because there's more to it.
Yeah,
so,
we just have an hour, so I'm trying to,
I mean, the other topics are short, though.
They are, that's
a lot
true.
of them, at least.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is, there's been other reports of this happening with other, like, family members of, like, adult and kid. However, none of the other reports so far, reporters have been able to actually talk to.
Right.
And another thing about Face ID that's important is if it fails to recognize your face and you type in your passcode, it takes a scan of your face to try and add that to it.
Right.
So that it's more accurate. However, that can cause major problems because let's say like my SO knew my password.
Yeah.
And it scanned it. It didn't scan their face. Eventually, of them doing it, it would just put their face in.
Yeah.
And then if I changed my password later, unless I cleared out the faces,
they'd still be able to.
They'd be in.
Yeah, correct.
And
yeah.
since it wouldn't be
and
adding...
you can't actually set up multiple faces with Face ID.
It wouldn't
right
be
now.
adding a new face. It would be adding to my face. So I'd have to clear my face and restart.
Yep.
So there's a lot of weird stuff with this that needs to be changed. I think the most important thing...
Wait, so you mean that fingerprint readers that have been around for a long time might be better?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things is adding multiple faces.
Yeah. See, my thing,
think...
if Apple really wanted to do better with security with biometrics, what my opinion that they should have done is just a highly accurate fingerprint sensor so that it's less likely to be spoofed.
But that's the thing, is they care more about design than security.
I know.
The thing is that, and we discussed this outside of WordCast, but I want to bring this up here. Ultimately, fingerprint sensor, Face ID, whatever, it's not meant to be the secure option. It's meant to be the
convenient.
Some random person picked up my phone. I don't want them getting into my information.
Yeah.
It's meant to be the base easy method for protecting payments. If someone grabs my phone real quickly, they can't make a quick payment.
Right, exactly.
It's not meant to be security.
The end all security.
If
That's
you,
what a
for some-
password is for.
Exactly.
With two-factor authentication.
Especially going into the next thing with Touch ID, if you think that you really need security, if you have confidential information for work or classified information on your phone,
just use a password.
you should be using a password.
And a password, not a draw code.
Yes.
And not a pin. A password.
The other important
Or
thing,
you could do a 6-digit pin. That's pretty good.
The other important thing, and on iPhone it requires 6. There is no 4-digit pin.
Correct. Yes.
The other important
BlackBerry
thing
recommends
is
it.
government would need a warrant for you to be required to give up your, or I don't even think they can. I don't know if with warrant they can be required to unlock it. Ultimately, though, it's a lot easier for them to require you to unlock it with a fingerprint sensor. No, because you can plead the 5th for a pin or passcode.
Correct.
You cannot plead the 5th for your face or fingerprint sensor.
Correct.
That's where it comes into play.
Yes. Joe says his dad asked him why he's staring at a white screen with text on it. He said he has cool like that. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
we
you
appreciate you still watching. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean everybody else is listening. He's still watching.
Yeah. That's how you do it.
Right. Okay, so the other section about Face ID here that's interesting, there was a group of researchers, security researchers, that were able to trick it using a 3D printed mask with some paint on it. So basically they 3D scanned somebody's face, built a 3D printed mask of that in a white, I think it was just white standard ABS plastic, and then painted the eyes, the nose, and the mouth very similarly to the person, and it unlocked.
Yeah.
Now,
this shouldn't be surprising to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, what's a 3D mapping of your face? That's exactly what the phone does, of course. Now, the thing to take away from this, though, more so rather than, they spoofed it, because obviously that wasn't easy to do, was the fact that your face, unlike your fingerprints, is easily publicly available, right? I mean, you touch things, but I mean,
your face can be seen from a distance. Your fingerprint can't be picked up from a distance.
And if you're depending on how you touch things, like if you slide your hand, it's gonna smear the fingerprint.
Exactly.
For
Correct.
example.
Yeah. So with your face, somebody could potentially with a telephoto lens, and people have been able to do this with just pictures. So I mean, that's why I'm saying telephoto lens. You could do this. You can get pictures of multiple angles of somebody's face and reconstruct a fairly accurate 3D model of that face, and you could get the coloring right and stuff. Because again, you're using telephoto lens with you could use a 50 megapixel sensor or something like that, and you can get a lot of detail on their skin and everything. Then you could potentially spoof it. It'd still be something you'd be targeted. It'd be like, we need to get into your phone in specific. So then you already know you have an iPhone X, and they go through the effort to, when you're in public, get images of you, 3D build a face. It's not easy to do, but it's just something to take away that it is possible. So if you're somebody that really cares about your security, or you're like a high level like government agent, or like potentially a famous person or something like that, you're best off not using Face ID realistically, and using a password, or even fingerprint is better if you have a phone that supports fingerprint instead. So that is just something important to note.
Yeah, I mean, again, this goes back to, like, if you think the only way this would affect you is if you're being targeted. And if you think you're being targeted, use the passcode.
Yeah, exactly. So GameStop rental program paused.
Possibly canceled. We don't know.
Possibly canceled.
Yes. So we talked about GameStop's rental program a while back. Essentially the... Okay. So we talked about this before. It was a $60 for 6 months where you could, one game at a time, check out any used game that your local GameStop had, play it, bring it back, play another one, bring it back. At the end of the 6 months...
Maybe they realized it would cost too much money.
No, that's not it. I'll discuss it.
Okay, yeah.
We, at the end of the 6 months, you could keep one game that you checked out at any point in the time. There was in soft launch mode, so like certain stores had availability, certain people had access, presumably like, because they have tiers of their pro membership now, not just free and pro. They have like additional paid tiers of pro. So presumably, I'm guessing like the highest tier had the extra benefit.
Right, that would make sense.
Also, Joe, that's what I was starting to type before I started talking on this topic. Yeah, it's most likely because you haven't changed it. I assume if you went to change your PIN code, it would require you to jump it to 6.
That makes sense.
But back to the GameStop thing. So it was set for full availability on the 19th. So it was going to be, what, next week? Yeah, 4 days from now. So Sunday was when it was going to go live. And instead, GameStop asked all stores that had it to pull down all of their like advertising, their in-store signage and everything. And they are asking people to bring back their pass and the game they had for on rental for a full refund. They will be allowed to keep a free used game. So anyone that started the sign up is just like, you get a game.
They're not screwing you, basically. Yeah.
And GameStop has not given an official reason, but according to some reporting Kotaku has done, a lot of employees believe it's because, and I know this from experience, I used to work at a GameStop, their point of sale computers and just their entire system sucks. And a lot of employees believe it's due to the fact that, especially at some of the stores with really old computers, their point of sale systems can't handle the mechanics of the service correctly.
Yeah.
They have, like, they've done, like, general UI updates, but they haven't done any kind of significant infrastructure update in a long time.
A lot of companies take forever.
Their computers are still running like 98.
It's a form of it's a form of DOS is most likely what it is.
No, it's Windows.
Yeah, but okay, I shouldn't say a form of DOS.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's 98 because I remember the UI.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, they're using like terrible shit. And so
most
this ultimately looks
you should
like
see what Kroger uses.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they did the soft launch for a reason because they felt the need to test it.
Yeah, but
and they see that the tests failed.
So hey, that's okay. I just hope that they need to come out with an official statement soon, telling people, hey, oops, or hey, we'll get it done soon, but we gotta do a bunch of updating first, you know.
Yeah.
So GameStop, I'm sure, has been booming in business, right? Though they haven't been going down at all, I wouldn't think, right? They haven't been having like, do you know of any financial issues they've been having? Not that that's related to this necessarily, but just saying like updating the POS system costs a lot of money. Yeah, I mean it looks like it's had a slow decline overall, huh?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But over
at
the
all
last
because,
few years.
Yeah, I mean realistically, like GameStop's entire profitability is off of used games.
Yeah, right.
And used games are in decline because, especially now, digital game sales are up.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's exactly what's going to hurt GameStop.
Accessories and consoles themselves are keeping them alive, probably.
Not consoles at all. Consoles are almost not profitable at all. If you are an employee, at Best Buy, where their discount is a percentage above what you pay for what Best Buy pays for the product.
Yeah.
For most of the time, that's still good enough for Best Buy. With consoles, you don't get a discount because the percentage that they're set to pay above the base price would actually
make it higher than the cost. Wow, that's ridiculous.
Generally, margins on consoles are negligible at best. They sell consoles so that they can attach accessories and games to it.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Especially since, think about it. Especially at launch of systems.
Yeah.
If the manufacturer's selling the system at a loss, they're not going to leave much room for the retailer.
Right, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yep. Okay. Excuse me. Next topic. Spot Mini from Boston Dynamics. This is an interesting, cute little looking robot that I want to give a hug.
So this would have been an ideal topic for showing you guys because it's a robot and you need to see it to understand.
Yeah.
I would just look up a video of it if you're interested. So there was a previous Spot Mini shown. It was, I also have a Verge article in the description.
Okay.
So
I'm just going to link them directly to the Boston Dynamics article, and then you can link them to the Verge if you want. All right, so here's a link going up in chat right now, guys, to the Boston Dynamics page for the Spot Mini. The thing is freaking adorable, I will say.
There was a previous Spot Mini shown that was a robot, small one like this, but it had like a giraffe-like neck, and it had a claw that it could grab things for you. Yeah. But it also looked very mechanical. This one... It
was this.
Yeah. This one looks much more like a nearing a product, although I don't quite know what the functionality would be other than being pet-like.
Yeah, because it's not like it can pick up stuff unless they're gonna maybe add an arm to it.
Or it might have sensors.
It's got little bolts on the top here. It looks like you could maybe like have accessory attachments that they could put on it potentially.
And who knows what the sensors might do? It might be a detection type thing. It'll operate in offices, homes, and outdoors.
Bark at intruders.
It's still saying it handles objects. So
climb stair. Yeah, it handles
who
objects.
Knows? But yeah, it's essentially
it has a gravity arm. It levitates them out of its face.
But essentially, it's this like little robot that's designed with some like animal-like characteristics, and
it uses electrical hydraulic system rather than Okay, that's or I don't even. It might not even be hydraulics actually, which is really smart. Yeah, it looks like it's electric motors because that's going to be a lot quieter. Hydraulics take a lot of power.
It would be better for
battery life
and super nimble stabilization.
Yes, correct.
Because hydraulics would have more reaction time, I feel like.
Well, they don't have to. It depends how they're designed. Because the larger, like the big dog and stuff, use hydraulics. Yeah. But they have to have big motors to be able to move that stuff quickly. Yeah.
But yeah, this thing looks pretty cool. It's not that little. Hey, Chris is watching.
Oh, nice. Hello, Chris. Nice to say hi to you.
Yeah.
But it's not like super little, but I want to give it a hug for whatever reason.
Yeah. I would take it as a pet.
Right. Yeah.
So especially the current yellow version, I really like.
I would take it as a pet depending on what it does, but
I don't care. I would take it as a pet to have.
I have real pets, and I think that would bother my real pets, which I care about. So.
But Amber could have a friend.
I don't know if she'd want to play with a robot.
You don't know. Yeah, it's just a really cool, interesting thing. For those that don't know, so Boston Dynamics used to be owned by Alphabet. It's now owned by SoftBank, who owns Sprint. So a Japanese company. SoftBank has been they're pushing very hard on robotics. Mm-hmm. So I can't say I'm remotely surprised at all that they're trying to make this a real product now. SoftBank is, I feel like, going to turn into a robotics company that just also owns Sprint at some point.
Could be. Or maybe they'll finally stop owning Sprint because Sprint will go under. Savage.
I mean, I feel like if anything, it'll just turn into a prepaid company.
Yeah. All right. Ready for the next one? You good to go? All right. So FireFox Quantum was launched. The biggest update since the launch of FireFox 1.0. Massive update. There's a lot of details here. One of the big things is decreased RAM usage, which is especially helpful for tab whores like me.
This comes from the new CSS engine that they're doing, which adds enhanced multi-core support.
Yep.
So for one, it's just for 4+ cores. On top of that, though, it's the new CSS engine better handles multiple tabs.
Yeah.
And so it's designed to intelligently enable and disable tabs. It's ultimately estimated to be about 30% less RAM on average.
Yep.
While maintaining, depending on the site, better or slightly better or slightly worse performance. On average, about equal to Chrome. In fact, Firefox uploaded a video to YouTube showing an open sourced performance test that actively, it literally just opens a set series of websites.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it is they didn't cut out the parts where Chrome was faster.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about even. I think it was like 10 websites, and almost 5 of them were Google was faster.
Mozilla is a good company.
Yeah.
They do the things right.
Now, one thing that I was paying attention to was the margin of difference. It seems like from what I was watching, and I didn't gather exact numbers, but on most of the ones where Firefox was faster, it was like significantly faster.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas when Chrome was faster, it was like maybe 1-2 seconds on most of them. There was a couple of them where it was a few seconds and it was a noticeable difference.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like, on average, I would say Firefox seemed to be the net faster. If you counted all 10 website speed, Firefox would have been a decent amount faster.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
yep.
I have it installed. I haven't gotten to experiment with it yet.
The issue I have,
Uh-huh.
and it's not Firefox's fault itself, I use Google's password manager, and you can't use that in Firefox.
I'm sorry. Use a good password manager.
And it just sucks because I mean I don't know if I care that much about using Firefox because I use a lot of Chrome plugins too. But it's something I want to support Mozilla at the same time, you know. And
honestly, though, I feel like you should just use Safe in Cloud anyway. Safe in Cloud is my preferred because that one. What's nice about Safe in Cloud is that it doesn't back up to a random company server. You can choose to have it back up to Google Drive or Dropbox or what was it? There's a few other ones. One of them, though, is your own NAS. I think it's Open NAS software.
Okay,
is what it can back up to.
Yeah, okay.
It's like $5 for the Android app. The desktop app is free. It can generate passwords for you with a number of different settings.
Yeah, you've shown me that.
It's got browser integration for both Chrome and Firefox.
Yep.
It'll also tell you how good your passwords are. I'm not going to get into it too much more because I don't want it to sound like an ad. I'm just saying for you, something to consider.
It's something
I like
I'll
it a lot
consider,
better.
but I just use so many Chrome plugins and stuff. I'm probably not
My
going to
problem
switch
with
off Chrome myself.
Yeah, but my problem with Google's password manager is it's very easy to view them in plain text.
I wouldn't call it easy.
You can view. Last I checked, they may have changed.
You have to enter your Windows password.
Okay.
To do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to enter your Windows password, but that's only on the machine that Chrome is installed on, and you're signed in on Chrome on that computer.
Okay.
Then you can enter that computer's
that's
password
a big
to view
difference then, because it used to be that you could straight up just
just view them. Yeah. So if somebody
passwords.
got your computer, and if you didn't have a password on your computer, they just view them. Yeah. As long as you have a decent password on your computer, you're good to go, and then hopefully nobody gets a hold of your computer too.
Yeah.
Right. But and then you can just if you find out you lost your computer, you go just disconnect it from the cloud. It's just
But
anyway, I want to use Firefox Quantum.
you should give it a shot because I mean almost every extension that's available on Chrome is available on Firefox.
It's just all my new my new Threadripper build. More on that later in this podcast, but it's gonna have 128 gigs of RAM, so I'm not too concerned.
I know.
But I don't know. I'll consider it.
Yeah.
I'll consider.
You should try it.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's not the only improvement. I mean the CSS engine is gonna help with other stuff, especially since they're expanding it. It's not like they're just done.
Right.
So. Also, though, one of the other big changes is they have a new what they're calling Photon UI. Now, this is consistent across all of their devices, and they're also including elements for devs to use, which I think is important. They're using, adding stuff. Essentially, they're trying to do what Material Design attempted, but Google changed Material Design a whole bunch, and so it's even among their own apps, it's not consistent, which is ridiculous because it's Google's own design language.
Yeah.
So... whatever. Just a nice. It makes Firefox truly competitive with Chrome.
My concern is Chrome's going to come back and do something to beat this. Although Chrome had an update.
Chrome already did their major performance update, and this is better than that
by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. That's very interesting. and we are sitting at 84% dropped frames, so a little bit better than earlier.
Hey, we're improving.
We're improving.
Yeah.
So we're uploading at less than a megabit, which just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, I'm sorry guys for no video. I do feel really dumb about that because I'd love to show you some of the stuff we're talking about, and within a week or two I'm going to have all of keyboard shortcuts set up so I can show you guys stuff quicker, so I have no idea what's going on right now. Anyway, so AMD...
Oh, one last thing.
Oh, one last thing about...
So in the US and Canada, also with FireFox, their default search is now switching over to Google. So Google, they're getting that Google money. So
okay, that's good. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so next thing. AMD shipping CPUs with higher than advertised core counts.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting, but I don't know exactly. Okay, so there was a Ryzen 5 CPU that was ordered and shipped with 8 cores and 2 threads per core, but still labeled a Ryzen 5, right? That's not the weirdest one, though.
Yeah, but
that's weird, but not the weirdest one.
Yeah, and the person who posted this, we would have shown you this should it have been. Should our stream have been working correctly.
They verified though.
But yeah, they showed plenty of details about it. It's like, it just none of this makes sense. It's I mean, this one doesn't list the.
It's showing.
3200 megahertz max.
Yeah, correct. 3200. That's max all cores. Yeah.
So.
Anyway, the weird one was a Ryzen 3 1200, and they noticed that their Cinebench benchmarks were higher than a 4770K, which doesn't make sense for a quad-core, non-hyper-threaded from AMD's Zen architecture, which is still slower than Haswell, or about equal to Haswell.
For reference,
but
their
lower clock speeds.
Their 1200 ended up getting 1016 in Cinebench, whereas the general standard for a 4770K is 822.
Yeah.
So it's a significant difference.
Exactly. So this guy checked, and apparently his Ryzen 3 1200 actually had 8 cores with no multi-threading, though. So it was 8 cores, 8 threads.
And it was clocked at 3.5 gigahertz, which is higher than a 1700, higher than a 1200. It's higher than most of their chips.
That right there is an 1800X. Yeah. So weirdly enough, though, it wasn't like they were locked, like the other cores were locked out, which has happened. We had this happen with the FX Bulldozer series of chips where you could try and unlock them for more cores, so to speak. It wasn't particularly easy to do, but you could see if your other cores were operational. Because the way that these architectures work is they're stamping out dies. And interestingly enough, there's sometimes dead cores on silicon. That's just how it works. And they disable those dead cores. And so the ones that they stamp out a die that has 8 cores, for example, and again, all of the mainstream AM4 stuff is a single die, even though there's multiple CCXs, it's still part of a single die. Threadripper is where the multi-die comes into place. But anyway, you stamp out a die that has, say, 8 cores, is what it was built with, but 4 of them aren't working or 3 of them aren't working. You disable the non-working ones to whatever number you want to do, and you sell that as another part rather than scrapping the silicon, which is the only other option.
Yeah.
So that's how these things are built. So it's understandable that sometimes you can get a chip and you get lucky and you can unlock it to a higher core count. But having one just show up and function as a higher core count either means it somehow got unlocked at factory, or the other way around, it wasn't locked and it was supposed to be. Yeah. The only thing I can think of in this situation, because there's no hyper-threading and there is no multi-threading, since there's no 8-core chips from AMD with simultaneous multi-threading, SMT, the only thing I can think of is the multi-threading is what failed on this, but not the cores, and they shipped it as this quad core without disabling the other cores. Yeah. I'm assuming the multi-threading didn't work. It was supposed to be an 1800X, but again, didn't work, so they disabled the multi-threading, and once the multi-threading is disabled, it can't be the higher tier ones, because those ones have to have SMT. Yeah. That's part of the spec of buying one. So since maybe even just one of those threads wasn't functioning right, those extra threads per core, then they just have to ship it as an R3, which is normal. But not disabling the other 4 is not normal at all. Now, I don't exactly know how the silicon works when you have SMT applied to it and how likely that section of the silicon die is to fail. But what I can say is if one of them wasn't working, they would have had to disable all of them And in that case, if that's something that really realistically can fail on its own, and they're not specifically making dies that have no SMT, but they all just have SMT, and some of them just the SMT doesn't work right because it's just not perfect, because it's photolithography is a very complicated process, then they disable it and ship it out as an R3. And in this case, they just didn't disable the cores alongside that. Now, as you said here, maybe AMD is getting really good yields and is saying, like, whatever, we won't lock cores. I do doubt that, because that's not good marketing generally.
Yeah.
But this does show that they might be getting really good yields, which is important, because Zen Plus, the biggest thing we want to see is clock speed improvements. If they're getting good yields, that means their silicon is being higher quality. Chances are the Global Foundry silicon that they're using is going to be able to hit substantially higher clock speeds, so we might see some serious competition against Intel with the Zen Plus stuff when that comes out. So that'll be interesting. There's not a whole lot more to say about that.
Yeah. I'm guessing that there's been more chips that people have gotten like this that just don't notice it.
Yeah, they either don't notice, but the thing is, I would think Taskman, like, the first thing I do when I boot up a new system or install a new processor, I just load up Task Manager, show logical processors, and count them.
Yeah, but what about the 1200 that get shipped to OEMs?
I would assume that would all be...
Even if the OEM notices, like, are they gonna... If it's like an 8-core non-SMT, they can't advertise it as some non-existent product line.
That's true.
They may have mentioned it to AMD, but if it was a bad batch,
there maybe is some a point to AMD. Maybe they are getting 8-core chips where the SMT is not working, and they're just going to ship them out as 8-core chips. But you would think they'd come out with a new SKU if they had enough of them.
Or maybe they're getting fantastic yields, and they're just like, hey, let's make people play the lottery. Talk about Silicon Lottery, baby.
That'd be funny.
Buy a $100 chip.
Well, I mean, hey, the website Silicon Lottery for picking higher clock, guaranteed overclockable CPU. This could be an avenue for them where it's like guaranteed 8 functional cores. You know, you can spend, but at that point, where's the price point? You know, that's the weird part there. So I don't know. This is really interesting to me. I don't know exactly what their thoughts, like what AMD's really trying to do here, if it's on purpose at all. Or if it's a mistake. I doubt it's on purpose, but if it is on purpose, that's hilarious. Yeah. But the question is, so if it's on purpose, that must mean it's not happening very often, because they just make a new product stack. They just be like, here's a Ryzen 1650. Yeah. It's an 8-core. What's weird is that SMT.
We did get the 1200 with no SMT, but we also got the what seemingly standard 1800X shipped as a Ryzen 5.
Right.
So, who knows what's up with that?
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
For me, that one, unless... If that happens again, then I feel like it has to end up being...
if it continues
that they're getting really good yields and forgetting to disable cores.
But they wouldn't forget, because chances are, if you're stamping on an 8-core die, chances are it's not like 4 cores every time are bad.
No, I'm saying for the Ryzen 5. Or 2 cores could be bad. Or 1. If there's only 1, then they'd turn it into a 5 and disable 1. If they're getting really good yields and it's all 8, that's the only time it would ever be 8.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So I'm saying, because obviously, Ryzen 5 especially is ultimately just a poor yield Ryzen
they're all just Zen chips. Yeah. I don't even know if they're stamping out. I don't know if they're actually doing photolithography for quad-core chips in specific, or if they're just making all 8 cores.
They're just... Because if they were, then Infinity Fabric wouldn't matter. It would just be a quad-core.
Well, it's still a single die out of a single piece of silicon, even when they have the CCXs.
I know.
They just can disable specific CCXs.
It's 2 chunks of 4 cores communicating, though. They wouldn't need that second chunk of 4 cores.
Well, no, because what I'm
the Infinity Fabric
is communicating between the cores, right?
But a single set of 4 cores wouldn't need it.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood you. Yeah, correct. Yeah, if they were stamping out just 4 cores, there'd be no Infinity Fabric on it at all. Yeah. Which means you wouldn't have. Yeah, so chances. Yeah, they're not doing that. Yeah. Unless this was just mislabeled, which isn't impossible. It might have been one that they were supposed to throw away, or something like that. Because the SMT was bad.
I'm talking about the Ryzen 5 though.
I know you're talking about the Ryzen 5 now. Yeah, so I don't know. It's
because it's not like they would have it's not like people manually type in the details and just mistyped Ryzen 5.
But somebody could have misstamped a batch.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Which I'm saying, like, if we see more reports of this...
if we see more, it's either a misstamp or some other weird
they're just, like,
mistake.
messing with people.
Or they're just like, here's stuff, guys. We're just going to just...
Merry Christmas!
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe AMD's at the point, you know, where they're like... Because, I mean, everybody knew with, like, the 1700, right?
Mm-hmm.
AMD was basically like, hey, here's a cheaper version of the same thing. Here you go. It's not guaranteed to hit the higher clock speeds, but you have like a 99% chance you're gonna hit like 3.9 gigahertz out of the thing. You know, you're gonna get the clock speeds most of the time that are close to what the 1800X would be getting stock or even at. So it's almost like here's just free performance, and they're selling the higher tier ones for people that are willing to shell out the money for a guaranteed chip, which is exactly what Silicon Lottery does, but they're just playing it better in a sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is just a weird situation, and especially since they both happened at the same time, but they're different chips in different stacks.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so RAM prices have been consistently going up for over a year now. We've complained about it. We've talked about it. We've said phones are taking some of the RAM, and it's frustrating, and things are using more RAM, and people need more RAM, and blah, 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 blah with RAM. RAM everywhere. So RAM prices spike again, but way worse than we've ever seen so far. So the spike wasn't gradual at all. At the beginning of November, it was probably the 1st or the 2nd, we saw some massive RAM price hikes. And to give you a good example, so I'm planning to put 128 gigs in my Threadripper build. The plan is to upgrade to 128 gigs in January sometime. And yeah, so I had two 64 gig kits of Corsair Vengeance, I think it was. Let me double check really quick. Yeah, Corsair Vengeance, DDR4, two 64 gig kits that were picked out. And they were priced at, I have the exact price here, $659.99 each. Okay. So the same one, and this is a couple, well, let me check the current price. I'll tell you what the price was. Okay, current price is the same as it was a couple days ago. So $659.99 for 64 gig kit, which is already about $100, maybe even you could argue $200 more than it should cost for 64 gigs of DDR4. That's not super high clock. It's 3200. It's nothing insane. Cast latency 16. It is now $945.99. That is almost a $300 price increase from when I made my parts list 3 weeks ago. I don't even know what to say at that point. So the reasoning behind this is phones are using more RAM, and there's a bunch of phone launches that just happened. So it actually makes sense when you have the iPhone X that just came out, the iPhone 8 that just came out, the iPhone 8 Plus that just came out, the Pixel and the Pixel, or the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL that just came out. You've got the Galaxy S8 Active is going to be using more. You've got the Razer phone, which is using a ton. So there's just an insane amount of phones coming out right now. So it makes sense that all the DRAM is being used up.
Yeah.
But it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
It's really unfortunate. You checking out some pricing right now?
I wanted to look something up. Is this it? No, it's not.
No, that was a... That one's doesn't look like... Yeah, it's not Prime. That's it. That's it right there. Yes.
What I wanted...
Trying to check...
I want to see what day it went up.
Oh, you're going to check.
If this has the history, it might not have.
Oh, it has the history, all right.
So the biggest day was...
That looks like November 3rd.
Well, so that they checked it on October 28th, and it was $7.29.
So it had gone up in October.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, so it went up and down. So in July it was $6.47. In August it was $7.51. In September it went down to $6.59. In October it was $7.29, and as of November 3rd, it was $9.45.
Oh my goodness.
Its lowest in September 23rd of 2016 was $389.
Okay, so I was right. Yeah, so it was over $200 more expensive than it really should have been.
Yeah.
Already.
Man, so if you like hoarded a bunch of these kits,
sell them right now. Yeah, sell them right now for like $700.
Tripled your money.
Yeah. So the thing that's frustrating here is, so the plan for my current build, I'm going to get to more details here soon, actually. I have some updates for you guys on that. But the plan for my current build is basically
I'm gonna build it soon, put in an iris or GPU. I have 32 gigs of DDR4 for now, and to then bump it up to 64, and then shortly after 128 gigs of RAM. I'm not gonna do that with RAM prices at this level. There's just no way that I'm going to do that. So I don't know what's gonna happen, because I only have 32 gigs of DDR4, and I remember 6 months ago thinking I should probably buy more in case I need it, and I never did. I really should have. So silicon prices are estimated to increase fairly rapidly starting next year, and over the next few years they're going to continue to increase over about the next 2 years. So Sumco, S-U-M-C-O, all caps, company is planning to increase their prices by 20%, and they account for over 60% of all the silicon wafers manufactured on the planet. Now, these are just the silicon wafers. These are before the photolithography is applied, because you guys have heard of, Global Foundries, TSMC, and stuff like that. They don't necessarily make their own wafers. They are doing the photolithography. They are developing the architectures, or not the architects. That's usually the company that's contracting with them. But point here is Sumco is going to be increasing prices by 20% starting next year, meaning the stuff we see come out next year might be more expensive, which is unfortunate and not good. So I just wanted to mention that to anybody. If you're thinking about buying a CPU, I mean, the prices of current stuff is not going to go up because that's still being manufactured. There's contracts for those lines a lot of times, so I wouldn't imagine like your 1800X is going to increase in price.
Man, Intel's going to love this, because once the prices go back down, they'll have just announced products at a set price and keep it there.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, though, so Intel might actually make their own wafers. I don't know if Sumco makes Intel's wafers.
Yeah, but Intel's a majority of CPUs sold.
Yeah, that's true.
By a crazy margin. Aren't they like 90-something% of CPU and laptop?
Okay, yeah, Sumco. Yeah, so on Sumco's website, there's a document here I found titled Sumco Corporation receives Intel's prestigious Supplier Continuous Quality Improvement Award. So yeah, they are selling the wafers, it looks like. Yeah. So they're contracted out to them. Oh boy. So yeah. Oh, Joe says his internet went out. Oh man, that sucks. Internet's going out is never fun.
Yeah.
Why are you ringing?
Don't worry about it. I'll do what I want.
I'm just kidding. So one more piece of news here. NVIDIA released a new driver today, 388.31. Massive performance gains. It's been optimized for Battlefront 2. Please don't buy that game, for the love of God. It's just...
Yeah, well, actually, we can talk about that in a minute.
We can talk about that in a minute. Why don't buy Battlefront 2? And Destiny 2. Up to a 53% performance gain in Destiny 2. So I will actually read off some of the stuff to you, since I can't show you the performance changes that we've actually seen just with this driver update, which probably fixed the depth of field issue that NVIDIA cards had, where depth of field was like super impacting the performance for some reason. These are all in max settings. I would like to see somebody go out, though, and actually test this, where they just test depth of field off versus depth of field on, and then compare those two numbers, current drivers, to what the older drivers were performing. Because I bet you depth of field off performed about the same as the current drivers.
Yeah. Which was crazy. And, like, obviously, yes, this just fixing a bug means that obviously most of it's not optimization, it's fixing a bug.
Yes.
But this actually shows how good Destiny 2 was, because Destiny 2 is already considered very, very well optimized.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's probably a game that could run on the Switch without a problem. It's impressive. The Digital Foundry's gone over some of the low-end hardware that you can run Destiny 2 with, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. The developers that handled porting it to, or not even porting it, remaking it for PC, because realistically, that's what it was. They did an excellent job.
They optimized excellent for console too. The people that did the console original.
That was just Bungie.
Right, but Bungie did a great job there too. Is what I'm saying.
But Bungie didn't develop the PC version. That's why.
No, I know. Yeah. Okay, so GTX 1080 Ti went from 48 frames per second to 73 frames per second. GTX 1070 Ti, and this is at 4K max settings, by the way, I believe, 4K max settings, went from 35 to 51 FPS.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, almost what us PC gamers consider playable. If you look at 1440p performance, the 1080 Ti goes from 91 to 132. The 1080 goes from 75 to 105. The 1070 Ti goes from 72 to 93. The 1060 6GB goes from 45 to 62, and the 1063GB goes from 42 to 59. So, meaning 1440p at max settings on Destiny 2, which is a beautiful game, mind you. It is like up there, probably in my games that I've played, probably 4 or 5, something like that. It's really high up there. It's not as good as like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter Redux or Crysis 3, but it is up there, and it's a big game, so it's impressive that the graphics are that good for a big game. Witcher still has a beat, but a 1060 6GB and even a 1063GB technically is less than a frame below this, can hit 60 frames per second average at max settings at 1440p, not 1080p.
Yeah.
Meaning a 1060 is no problem at 1080p.
A 1063, you could drop probably any setting down a little tiny bit, and you're good at 1440p.
Exactly. So what that tells you, though, I mean, like, anything can run it at that point. That's impressive. So I wanted to go over that. You go ahead and talk about why not Battlefront 2. I'm going to do a little more research on the depth of field to see if that was maybe related to this.
Some of you might know this already. Battlefront 2 has microtransactions, specifically microtransactions that affect gameplay. That already created a lot of controversy. This is something that was talked about during the beta and after. It's been talked about ever since. It was a big worry. And the game is currently, it's not in what's called early access, it's in what's called Origin early access or something like that. Essentially, if you pay for Origin subscription service or EA's subscription service on Xbox and you've pre-ordered the game, you get to play it 10 days early. It's considered the final version of, or like the release version of the game. They might still make minor changes, but it's not like there's going to be another day one update. You're playing what is supposed to be the day one version of the game 10 days early. Well, somebody spent $80 on microtransactions to try and get Darth Vader specifically because they wanted to play him.
Yeah.
They didn't get him. They posted on Reddit about this, that they were very upset that they spent $80, they couldn't get to play him. Somebody spent the time figuring out, based off of an average of how many credits you earn a minute and how long you would have to play in order to get Darth Vader. Turns out, it was 40 hours of gameplay. That's insane. And so the community immediately went into full uproar mode, understandably, because it's clear that they were trying to paywall you and then make it ridiculous for you to get this reward, even from paying for it.
Yeah.
Well, EA, their community manager, then made a tweet that pissed off a lot of people about how everyone are armchair developers. And then he deleted the tweet, then tried to say it was about something else, despite it being right during the controversy and not saying what it was about. Because no matter what, if he's talking about the community and armchair developers, it doesn't matter if it's about microtransactions or something else. He's kind of stepping out of line. There's an actual term for armchair developers, not pertaining to that. Also, aren't all developers armchair developers? Because I don't know about you, but most developers probably sit in chairs that have arms.
Yep. I would imagine.
Yeah. From there, then EA started responding to stuff on Reddit. They have now the most downvoted Reddit post of all time by a very wide margin.
It'll stay that way.
It was like 40 or 50,000 before it broke the record. It's at now over 600,000 net downvotes. Like, damn, dude. And for a summary of what that post was saying, it was essentially responding to why it took so long to unlock stuff. And they were trying to say, we wanted you to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment by blowing 40 hours on unlocking a character.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Well, now they've dropped the cost after all of that controversy by 75%. Yay! Sounds good. Too bad they also dropped the earn rate on a lot of tasks. Now, not all of them went down, from what we can tell. People haven't tested everything, at least in what I've seen so far. There hasn't been any in-depth testing. It's just been initial reports. But, for example, the it used to be that when you completed the campaign, you got 20,000 credits, which is a big deal because that's a third of Darth Vader. So that would help with Darth Vader
a big deal,
because
yeah.
he used to be 60,000. Well, they dropped his cost or all character cost by 75%. However, they also dropped the cost of the reward for completing the campaign by 75%.
Yeah.
So they didn't help. They just tried to make it look good for them. So.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Basically. So I'm trying to do some more research. All I'm finding is actually AMD was the hardware that tanked with depth of field, not NVIDIA.
I saw posts about it on Reddit, so I don't know.
Because I'm not.
I'm pretty sure it was a Destiny-wide depth of field thing.
That could be. Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah, rather than just a GPU company specific.
Yeah.
That's still impressive on NVIDIA's part, though.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Also, my stream's having trouble loading. But is it on here? I have no way to know.
Yeah.
So that's all of our topics.
You were going to talk about Threadripper?
I'm going to talk about my new build a little bit for you guys. Give you guys an update of maybe why you haven't seen some of the stuff yet. So I am approaching being able to actually assemble the base platform for it. But I ran into one little quirk. So I have a 1950X 16-core 32-thread AMD processor, Threadripper 1950X. I have the Thermaltake, the Tower 900. Most of you guys that watch this already know this, and if you've seen my video, you guys know the specs that I plan to put in it. But I've got the Tower 900. I have a liquid cooler that I'm going to be using to cool it for now. It's just an Asetek-based Corsair H105. I've got the bracket adapter. It won't look great, but it'll keep that Threadripper cool, and that's what I need for the time being until I do the custom loop next year. Might try and do something more aesthetically pleasing at some point. I don't know yet. And then I was going to buy the motherboard. And I had the money to buy the motherboard. I was about to order it and have a Threadripper system up and running. I was excited. And then I remembered, oh, wait, this motherboard, Threadripper being a massively power-hungry processor, nothing like Intel stuff when overclocked on their X299, but Threadripper takes a lot of power. It's 16 cores.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you can overclock it and you're pulling 250, sometimes even up to 300 watts from the CPU alone. So the motherboards generally, actually all of them that I've seen, will have an 8-pin CPU, was technically called an EPS power connector, and either another EPS 8-pin or a ATX power connector 4-pin. Those are two separate specs there. So an ATX connector there. So they have two power connectors. And I noticed that before ordering and remembered I don't own a power supply that can output. All my power supplies are 4+4 pin EPS connectors, meaning you put 4 together with the other 4 and you make an 8-pin, right? But none of them had multiple. And I wasn't going to adapt Molex or something to it like that because that's just not a good idea. For such an expensive product, I'm not going to mess around with SATA and Molex adapters for powering the motherboard that's housing a $1,000 CPU, right? So I ordered a power supply instead, which is about the same price as the motherboard, a $400 power supply versus a $440 motherboard. But the whole idea behind this build is starting with a really good base platform. So a solid case, a solid processor, a solid motherboard, and a solid power supply. Everything else can be upgraded and interchanged pretty quickly. But I wanted something that was a base platform that was good enough that realistically, if it has to, it can last me like 4 more years pretty satisfactory. Doesn't mean it's gonna not be upgraded, over time to better stuff, but just the base platform was important to me, going all out on that subject there so that I can then focus the money and finances and stuff in the future instead of having to decide, do I want a CPU upgrade or do I want a case upgrade? I throw that money into actual performance things that I need for the build, like more drive storage and stuff like that. So I ordered a power supply. It is the ST1500 Ti from Silverstone. It is a power supply that actually just came out pretty recently. I don't know exactly when. I'll see if I can find out for you guys. There's not even reviews of it yet that I've been able to find, which is kind of crazy, actually. Let me see. News. Silverstone expands the lineup. That was on June 23rd, so fairly soon. Yeah, for power supplies, they are around so long. That's a pretty new power supply. It is the smallest, unless there's something weird that I don't know about. I did a lot of research. The smallest 1500 watt power supply in the market. In fact, the smallest, I think even potentially the smallest 1300 watt. There are smaller 1200 watts.
so it's smaller than the AX 1500i, smaller than EVGA's like 1600 watts and stuff like that, like their 1600 T2. And it is 80 plus titanium rated, so it is a monster of a power supply, and it is super efficient, and it's beautiful. I absolutely love the thing. It's just a total monster. It's got extra. It actually, so you know how most power supplies, you got the back of the power supply, you got a 24 pin to plug in there,
Yeah.
and then that goes to a cable that is a 20 plus 4 pin or a 24 pin, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one has a 24 pin that plugs into there, and the other end is a 24 pin. It also has I think it's a 6, it might be an 8 pin connector next to the 24 pin. There's another wire that comes off of the 24 pin connector that plugs into there and goes and runs into a couple of the pins, so you can get extra power provided through your 24 pin ATX connector.
Oh wow.
So I mean, the thing is just a complete monster, where it's just like, it has so much power to give. It has 8 pin graphics card power connectors. I couldn't think of the term, PCIe connectors. It's just a monster, and I'm very, very happy with it. I might be doing a dedicated video on it for you guys soon, potentially Monday that might be up. So anyway, that's why you guys haven't seen an update, because you will see an update, of course, once I assemble the initial system so that I can actually like use it so it's functioning, right? So I can do my editing and stuff on it. You guys will see an update of that. But I had to buy the power supply first because I needed to be able to power that CPU and that motherboard and everything. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up of what's happening with that monster build. I'm pretty excited for it. Yeah. So it's just, yeah, it's great. It's great. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about it in specific. I will probably be upping to a higher, upping my storage and stuff like that in January, but the end of the year, I'm planning to try and get myself a Vega 56 for my gaming card that I'll be using until I upgrade to whatever from NVIDIA and AMD is super high end next year. But I want a gaming grade GPU, but then I gotta upgrade storage and RAM and some accessories, liquid cooling at some point. I want some better monitors and stuff like that. So I just want a gaming grade graphics card that's a beast that'll get me through the time being, right? And I like Vega 56. It's come down in price to the point where it's actually near MSRP now. It performs about equal to a 1070 Ti. It's a monster. It uses more power, but got a power supply that can handle it, of course. And I'm interested in supporting AMD, and I have a FreeSync monitor already, so I might as well go NVIDIA for or AMD for the time being.
Yeah.
Sorry. So anyway, just a heads up for all you that have been interested in that. I know there was a lot of people that were excited to see the build. There'll be some new stuff coming soon of the actual assembly and everything, of getting it up and running, and potentially some benchmarks of the 1950X that I'll get up for you guys. But I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about at this point.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any major news. We're not 100% sure yet if we're going to be on next week or not, because it's the day before Thanksgiving. We don't really know. We haven't decided on that yet for sure. We'll figure something out. Yeah. I don't know if there's going to be an actual live stream, if there's going to be a pre-recorded, but we'll figure it out. So just an FYI, don't necessarily expect a live stream WordCast next week on Wednesday. There might be something. There might be just a roundup of Black Friday deals that are coming up or something like that. But just don't expect it. Doesn't mean there won't be, just don't expect it. I don't want anybody to be disappointed. But I think that's everything that there is to talk about. So thank you everybody for watching. If there's any last questions, then yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's it, everybody. Have a great day. Sorry about all the frame drops.